Hello and welcome back to This Week in Biotech by Biotech Blueprint. Today I'm covering biotech and pharma news from November 7th to November 13th, 2025, and it is edition number 78 on Substack. So this week was fairly busy in terms of announcements. Again, companies continue to report their Q3 earnings and plans for the future. And at the same time, there was a lot of updates, especially on the clinical side this past week, so I had to combine all of these news together. But I'm going to start with the FDA, which had about 3 important updates. So they rolled out a brand new approval framework called the Plausible Mechanism Pathway. This is being led by Commissioner Martin Makary and Chief Medical Officer Vinay Prasad. And it is one of the most ambitious policy shifts in modern drug approval. Basically, until now, even personalized gene therapies, literally designed for one patient, had to fit into frameworks built for large randomized trials. But that made no sense scientifically or practically. And, you can't run a 500% trial when only 2 children in the world have a certain condition. And so under this new pathway, a company can get a therapy approved if it can show that the biological cause of the disease is well understood, the therapy clearly hits that biological target, and the patient actually improves in a meaningful way. So that's it. No huge trials, no placebo-controlled study, and this framework was inspired by the baby KJ case that I covered a few months ago, where researchers at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia designed a CRISPR therapy for a newborn named KJ with a fatal metabolic disorder. It was a custom-built drug for him, and it worked. And so regulators realized that this can be a one-off and there needs to be a system. If the agency executes this well, the US becomes the clear global leader in rare disease innovation, and investment in gene editing programs could accelerate again after years of uncertainty. Next news from the agency is that Richard Pazdur, who created the Oncology Center of Excellence at the FDA and modernized how cancer drugs get reviewed, has been appointed to lead CDER Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, which is the division that oversees all traditional medicines. And this matters because Pazdur is known for being extremely data-driven, but also very programmatic. He was behind programs like Project Orbis, which lets multiple countries conduct simultaneous drug reviews. He also wants to use surrogate endpoints more when there's strong biological rationale. And importantly, he will likely pull drugs from the market when post-approval studies fail. And investors overall love the news. Biotech and pharmaceutical exchange traded funds hit their highest levels in years, XBI at the highest since 2022. And it seems that the market sees him as someone who understands speed but refuses to compromise quality. Last week, I quite extensively discussed the fight between Pfizer and Novo Nordisk over Metsera, and Pfizer is the ultimate winner. After years of setbacks in obesity research, failed oral GLP-1 drugs, halted programs, and missed opportunities, Pfizer is finally in the game. They closed a nearly $10 billion acquisition of Metsera, giving them injectable GLP-1 drugs, GLP-1 and amylin combinations, and promising oral program. Novo Nordisk declined to outbid Pfizer, which is telling. Novo doesn't need to overspend. They already dominate the category. But Pfizer does need this. Obesity medicine is a $1 trillion market with cardiovascular benefits that could fundamentally reshape the standard of care. And while this deal does not put Pfizer on par with Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly, it gives them a real pipeline. Cura Oncology and its partner Kyowa Kirin landed early approval for Komzifti, a once-daily pill for genetically defined form of acute myeloid leukemia. This matters because it's the first approved menin inhibitor for patients with NPM1 mutation, which is a mutation found in roughly 30% of leukemia cases. It's a group with limited options and poor long-term outcomes. Komzifti is entering a competitive space, but has a major advantage, which is no box warning for heart rhythm complications, which its rival actually carries. Analysts expect more than $1 billion in annual sales by early 2030. And more importantly, this is another sign that genetically defined cancer therapies are becoming the new normal. Next is CRISPR Therapeutics. The company released early human data for therapy called CTX310, which again, I reported on several months ago. This therapy edits the ANGPTL3 gene inside the body, and the goal is to permanently reduce high triglycerides and LDL cholesterol. A single intravenous dose lowered triglycerides by up to 84% and LDL or bad cholesterol by nearly 90% in some patients. These are levels usually only seen with very aggressive medication combinations. This is the future people imagine when CRISPR was discovered. One treatment and a cardiovascular risk profile is permanently changed. But of course, this is still early stages. But again, this is one of the most compelling in vivo proof of concepts yet. Eli Lilly bets big on restoring blindness. So Lilly acquired rights to a gene therapy from Mira GTX and that restored vision in 11 children who were born legally blind due to a mutation causing LCA4, a severe retinal disease. The therapy uses a next-generation adeno-associated virus vector and some very sophisticated regulatory control elements like AI-designed promoters and riboswitch technology. Lilly is clearly building a full ophthalmology portfolio. Now, this comes just weeks after their acquisition of Deverum. To me, this signals two things. One, that Lilly believes in the long-term economics of curative therapies despite historically expensive manufacturing. And two, they want to extend their reputation beyond metabolic disease into other high-impact categories like blindness. Gene therapy for the eye is one of the only areas where one and done truly makes sense. Small tissues, stable cell populations, and enormous quality of life improvements. So this is everything for this week. As I said, there's quite a bit more that happened this past week, and you can read that in greater detail on Substack. And as always, I really appreciate your support. And thank you for being here, for listening to and reading Biotech Blueprint. And I'll be back next week.